Hello and welcome. Here's a sneak peek at today's episode. He'd been creeping around her backyard for crying out loud. I should be running. I should be screaming. Hi, my name's Danielle Forrest, and on this channel I do videos about myself, my writing, and anything related to those topics. In this video, I'm going to be reading from episode 10 of Fated Mates of the Drakoan, titled Caught. Let's get started. Jess could barely gulp down enough air. She was pumping her limbs as fast as they would go, her entire focus on getting to the neighbor's house. She felt like she was making no progress at all, like she was standing still. Why is our house so big? Her mind popped to those dreams she used to have, where no matter how hard she tried to run, it was like she was trudging through quicksand. This felt like that dream, only this was real. And he was getting closer. She could hear him, his heavy footfalls pounding the earth, his breaths puffing into the air behind her. Jess pushed herself harder, desperate to get a little distance between them, but she might as well have been moving backwards. It took forever to pass by the air conditioner, the trash cans, and finally the garden hose spilling out over the grass in coils. Each item seemed so close but took so long to reach. Then excitement hit her as she approached the corner of the house, even though it was nowhere near her destination. Maybe someone will see me. But the hope was short-lived. The moment she reached the corner, a thick arm looped around her, pulling her off her feet. Her legs flailed and she screamed, beating against him in any way she could. The muscles of his forearm pressed hard against her ribcage, making every breath a battle, especially after running for her life. She pulled and clawed at the flesh there, not even registering its texture, just desperate for escape. Her ears rang as she struggled fruitlessly against his superior strength. She screamed again, hoping someone would hear, or, if nothing else, that he had sensitive ears. There was a certain warm glee that filled her at the thought that her screams might hurt him. At this point, she would hurt him any way she could, even if it was only with sound. But she couldn't fight against him forever. He was strong, and she was not. Little by little, weariness settled into her body, and eventually she just couldn't maintain her outreach. Resignation fell upon her like a weighted blanket, snuffing out any remaining hope of escape. Jess still definitely had adrenaline rushing through her system, but she could already feel the shakiness as it started to wear off. I'm no match for him. Her face heated, and she held back an urge to cry in frustration. Jess thought of all the times she'd attended martial arts classes, of all the drills she'd participated in. But that had been years ago, hadn't it? She'd half-heartedly kept up her practice in college, but after? She'd let herself go, falling into a routine where she spent most of her time sitting in front of a computer or a camera. What's he gonna do to me? She wondered as she squirmed in his arms, trying to make at least some room for herself. Think, Jess. There's gotta be something you can do. She'd learned plenty of maneuvers over the years, but with her feet in the air and his arm locked around her torso, she didn't have the leverage or space to perform any of them. And that was when she started to notice things. Humid puffs of air against the back of her neck, a gentle voice, a soothing caress. The tension finally drained from her body as she noticed one last detail: scales. There were scales under her fingertips. She looked down, taking in the red texture covering his muscles. In the dark, the color looked more burgundy, but she ran a tentative finger over it, feeling the edge of each scale. I'm not going to hurt you, he said into her ear, his voice both deep and smooth, soothing now that she was actually paying attention. It was the first thing he'd said that she'd actually understood, though she realized belatedly that it wasn't the first time he'd spoken in English. Now she remembered hearing someone asking her to wait, to stop. It was the same voice, his voice. She stopped struggling, and after several tense moments, he lowered her feet to the ground. But his arm around her middle didn't budge. Neither did the hand that was slowly caressing her, gently running over her head, down her neck, down her arm, then back again. He's trying to soothe me. She froze in shock, and suddenly all of their encounters took on an entirely different feel. At the Capitol, he'd most likely only been doing his job. As best she could tell, he hadn't even noticed her. And had he come looking for her, or was him standing outside her house a coincidence? Had he simply been surprised to see someone looking through the window? Or had he seen her at the Capitol, and then recognized her through the window, causing him to pause? But then why did he wait around? The tension that had left her body only moments before began to rise up again, because she didn't have an answer to that. She could explain away him rushing after her. Maybe he'd wanted to explain himself. Or maybe he'd worried she would get lost in the dark. But she couldn't explain him lurking in the shadows for God only knew how long. And why the hell is he sniffing me? He was still whispering soothing words in her ear, but now she realized he'd intermixed it with a brief inhale through his nose, which was pressed against her neck. It was so short, barely a moment, and she wondered at first if she'd imagined it. But then he did it again, leaned in, sniffed, pulled back slightly, then more reassuring words. Is it an alien thing? She racked her brain, but she couldn't remember a damn thing about his species off the top of her head. They'd been allies with humans for longer than she'd been alive, but she couldn't say she'd ever really paid much attention when they'd discussed them in class. It had only been a brief chapter, going over the Drakoans and the human colony on Goa. Then they'd moved on to other topics. Maybe sniffing was somehow important to his people. Dogs greeted each other by sniffing each other's butts. Couldn't Drakoans be similar? How was she to know if they'd had unusual greeting customs? Shrugging and turning her head to the side slightly, she leaned in and sniffed, and her knees instantly went weak as warmth rushed through her. Holy shit! He smelled fantastic! She couldn't describe it really, but he smelled warm, soothing, like home somehow. It felt like coming home. She had a fleeting impulse to turn around in his arms and cling to him, to feel him up and press her nose against his neck, sucking in as much of that scent as she possibly could. But his grip was like iron, and even taking a deep breath had her battling against his hold. There was no way she was turning around any time soon. Then he growled, and her legs really did give out on her this time. Another warm swell ran through her, this time settling between her legs. Holy shit, I'm turned on! She wanted to freeze, to take a step back, but her body felt like cooked noodles, and she was suddenly very keenly aware of every inch of flesh that was pressed against her. She arched, curling backward until her cheek rubbed up against his neck, and she couldn't help pressing her nose against it one more time as she moaned. A very dim, barely audible voice in the back of her head was wondering what the hell she was doing, what the hell had happened to her, but she quickly pushed it aside in favor of feeling. Feeling the slight texture of his scaled forearms, feeling the hardness of his muscles against her back, feeling the dampness of his breath, feeling the heat surging inside her. Then finally feeling something long and hard against her ass. She stopped her squirming for only a brief moment, taking in the sensation, knowing all too well what it meant. I should be afraid. The thought came out of nowhere, but it shouldn't have felt so out of context, so alien. He was a stranger after all, and they'd never talked, never discussed birth control or STDs. Hell, he'd been creeping around her backyard for crying out loud. I should be running. I should be screaming. But instead, she found herself panting for breath, her focus now on her new discovery, and she couldn't help pressing harder against it. What would it look like? What would it feel like? Suddenly, she needed to know. She was desperate to know. Jess imagined him slowly divesting her of her clothing, running those strong hands over every inch of skin he exposed. She imagined him reaching one hand between her legs, amping her up with a strong, steady finger as his other hand gently caressed her breast and his teeth nipped at her ear. She imagined that growl, him working his pants down, then, "Please," she moaned, desperately needing this new fantasy to become reality. Anyway, thank you for watching to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you don't hate me too much for where I ended this specific episode. I know it may sound a little bit cruel to end right before the sex scene, but it was just such a perfect point to stop, and the length of the episode was just about right. So in spite of the way it ended, what do you think? I was going to say, what do you think is going to happen next? But I think we all know what's going to happen next. The question is, how's it going to go after? Anyway, leave me a comment below with your thoughts. And if you haven't noticed, my setup's a little different. I got a shock mount for my mic and a new pop filter. For the pop filter, I was looking for something that wasn't quite as big as my head. And as for the shock mount, I had no idea that the bonging noise in some of my earlier videos was because I didn't have a shock mount. Go figure. Anyway, so it's a new setup. It's experimenting. Let me know in the comments if the audio quality still sounds good. If I mean, I'm hoping everything is fine. But there's always a possibility I may have missed something. Anyway, that's all I have for now. If you liked the video, consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell if you want notifications. And if you want to connect with me and my content in other places, you can find links to my various social media accounts in the video's description, along with places where you can find my stories and books online. Most of my stories are available for sale in ebook, paperback, and hardcover formats, and if you're the type of person who just can't wait, you can get early access to my stories on my Ream subscription, which also includes most of my back catalog with the subscription. Ream is 5 episodes ahead with Fated Mates of the Drakoan, which is the series I'm reading to you right now. Obviously, it's not in video format, but you can read ahead if you want on there. And I am also currently sharing an unedited whip of Match to the Alien Captain. I am almost finished with it. I only have a few more scenes to write, and then I will be slowly sharing the last of those episodes before I work on the next book in that series that I'm going to be working on, which is for an anthology. Anyway, until next time, here are a few things you can watch while you're waiting for my next video. Bye!